I just want to highlight a few points that is coming up in 2015, just to describe to you what the economic outlook looks like for this country. It is not good generally. 2015 we're going into a very tough economic year, primarily because Malaysia is an oil-producing nation. Yeah, I think this is a youth dialogue. What it means the economy to you as young people is that your pay isn't great at the start. It's not going to grow in 2015, unfortunately, if economic condition continues like this. Oil-producing nation, how much do we produce a year? Petronas has a revenue roughly, based on 2013 numbers, about 250 billion a year. In addition to oil, we also produce another type of oil that is known as palm oil. Palm oil is about 80 billion to 100 billion. So together, these two oil represents about 350 billion. If our economy is now at a GDP of 1 trillion, so roughly 35% of the economic export output is affected effectively because palm oil is linked to biodiesel. Yeah, this is a known fact. In about 5 years ago, palm oil used to be pegged or more or less traces the price of soya oil, but about 4 to 5 years ago, palm oil started contributing substantially to biodiesel output. So about 16% of palm oil goes into biodiesel production to be supplied to Europe. So as a result, the palm oil is now pegged to petroleum prices. So when petrol prices started dropping as early as October, and we've seen a significant drop since then, almost by 55%. If you know, in 2014 in January, right, we know that price of oil peaked at 125 about 6 years ago, but now in January 2014, exactly one year ago, it was selling at $100 per barrel. Yeah, now we're looking at 45, possibly going down to 40, according to Bloomberg and according to Goldman Sachs prediction. At 40, that means 60% drop year to year. Yeah. Now, when the price of petroleum started dropping, as of October significantly, and it keeps dropping to in November and ultimately in December we saw a big drop. We started as members of parliament, even as early as November during parliament session, myself and YB Rafizi, we raised the issue in parliament asking the government to take proactive steps. If you go through our debates in parliament, going through the handsets in parliament, you'll see that we have asked the government time and time again to look into this matter seriously. Of course, no one wants to see the price of oil drop. But when it starts dropping, the government must form an economic action committee. They must do the right thing. They must protect, because as I said earlier, 350 billion, 250 from petroleum, 100 from palm oil, 350 billion of exports a year depend heavily on the price of oil. Yeah? Now, what does it mean? It means the government fiscal policy or the government's spending for next year, the allocation that they looked at, they used $105 per barrel as their computation. So we'll see that impact. You know, it's like you. I mean, you know, maybe there are some housewives up here. The husband gives her a bit of money, say 2,000 or 3,000 a month, to plan for the family expenditure, right? To buy the vegetable, buy the fish, buy the chicken. She plans with the idea of getting 3,000 a month from the husband. Suddenly, the husband, you know, lose 60% of his earnings, and it drops to 1,200. Now, how does a housewife plan from 3,000 a month to 1,200? You know, it's the same problem the government face. They have expected $105 of price of oil to plan for the future, and then when they drop to $45, they are facing a massive crunch. Now, how big is this crunch? The numbers are still vague because the government, in its infinite wisdom, feels that it's important to hide it from members of parliament like myself and Rafizi when we ask in parliament, and from DAP, Tony Pua will ask, Ong Kian Ming will ask, and from PAS, you know, Dr. Zhou will ask, and they feel that it's better to hide information rather than to engage the members of parliament and tell the real picture. Now, we know two things. When this drops, Petronas cannot give money to the government, not the same amount that they used to give. Okay? So if Petronas contributed 30% to the national budget, This year, we expect them to drop to somewhere close to 15%. Now, Petronas has a double whammy. The problem with Petronas is generally a very well-run company. During Hassan Marikan's time, very well-run. As I'm sure YB Rafizi later, when he gives his speech, he might want to touch on that point, because he used to work for Petronas for 15 years. This year, they made they invested in this massive project in Canada called the Progress Energy. Yeah, and this is significant because they pumped in about $5 billion US, 5.5 billion US dollar, roughly 5.5 billion Canadian dollar, which is roughly $5 billion US dollar, which is in today's terms about 18 billion ringgit to buy the company called Progress Energy. Then they sunk in about 3 to 5 billion of investment this year alone in preparation to sell gas, it's LNG, to Asia. Now that project has stuck. December 15, they announced that they're not going to build their terminals, and they're going to just hold it. And this project may be stuck as long as 15 to 20 years. But somewhere between 30 billion ringgit has been sunk into the project with no outcome. So, you have Petronas contributing 30% to the national budget. They are stuck by their own wrongdoing in Canada by 30 billion. They got Rapid, which they want to do is for 60 billion down in Johor. They're going to scale that back also because, prices are not good. So I think the Petronas was overly ambitious. So as a result, this year, 2015, their contribution to government, in my estimate, will drop to about 15%, which is roughly 30 billion ringgit drop. Now the government argues that, so what? We got, we're used to putting up budget year and year and increasing 30 billion a year. Yeah, they say that, it's normalized, it's business as usual, no worries. We'll go to the open market and issue government securities and raise all this money and to cover this hole. That's what the government takes the view, right? Now, they also say now that there's no more petroleum subsidy. Price of fuel has dropped, everybody's celebrating. I start pumping RON 97. I used to pump RON 95, right? Everybody's doing it. So, they feel, okay, so if we are subsidizing oil in the tune of about 10 to 15 billion a year, now we don't have to do that. So that's a saving for the government. What they don't realize is this. The world is monitored by the rating agencies. And over time and time again, you'll realize how important the rating agencies are. Whether it's Fitch, Standard & Poor's, Moody's, these three giants basically rate the financial health of a country. Now, if you are a foreigner, and most rating agency members are foreigners, except the Malaysian one called RAM, Rating Agency Malaysia, they come to Malaysia, and they do come to Malaysia quite often. For instance, I see the Moody's people quite often. Every time they're down, every quarter they come and visit us, because they like to get an opinion, not from the ministers themselves, but also from members of parliament from the opposition. They come, and they look, wow, you depend so much on oil, but the price of oil have dropped. You depend so much on palm oil, that has also dropped because it's linked to oil. They start to feel a sense of panic. So they will rate you lower. They will rate you lower. Yeah? So when they rate you lower, what does it mean? If you are a student, and I'm sure some of you are students, this after all is a youth dialogue, and you say you make nothing, essentially you're a student, right? Yeah? So you're not bankable in the first place. Yeah? Say your father gives you $2,000 a month pocket money. Your father loves you a lot. I'll give you a lot of money, go makan Burger King, all this. Okay? And you go to the bank and say, look, I got income coming in $2,000 a month. The bank will say, okay, not bad, you're quite bankable. I will give you a A grade for bankability. Yeah? Then they find out your father has lost 60% of his revenue. Now the bank going to say, hey, I better give you a C grade. When you have a C grade, when you borrow from a bank, is 9%. When you're A grade, you get 3% or 4%. This is happening in the Malaysian government context. It used to have a lot of money coming from oil, so they get a A minus, AAA minus, which is not bad as a rating. So when they give you that rating, you have basically about 4% to 5% bond payment. Okay. Now I'll just get down to the last point because I got 1 minute left. The government say, don't panic, it's normal. They can raise more money. It is not true. Since October, we've talking to the government. We've been tracking. We've been talking to people from the treasury, from several banks. It's one of my job as the investment and trade director for PKR to have lunch with bankers, to listen to their gripes and listen what's going on. Essentially, they tell us, and the data tell us, and Bank Negara has now confirmed it, since October, the foreigners are selling our bonds at a rate of about 10 billion ringgit a month. Yeah? They are holding about 160 billion. Now, January, they're about 130 billion. They have sold 30 billion a month. So this is the problem with government. They say they can borrow, they can go to the bond market and borrow, they can't. Because people are selling our bonds. No one is interested to pick up. And then, with the currency dropping in value, who wants to take a Malaysian ringgit? Well, YBLE is here with a football outfit. I don't know why, let her explain that. So the take-home message is this. My last 30 seconds is very clear. The youth, work hard, study hard, do your bit, right? Get a job, yeah? Stick on to the job. If the job is difficult, just hold on to it. The economic times are not good. Don't overspend, don't buy a new iPhone 6. Hang on to that. Don't cause problem for your parents. For, young parents like Rafizi and myself, so we have young babies, we're going to tighten our belt. Yeah? Generally, everybody out there, just save your money as much as possible. It's not good. If this government was a clever, smart, government with a lot of money in the cash, no problem. This government got 550 billion in debt. They're facing a financial crisis. You cannot expect the government to help you, so you have to help yourself. Thank you very much.